All right, let's watch it.
Nice. Pull up, dude. Pull up. We're gonna die.
So I haven't actually seen.
This is the end. This is your intention all along.
I haven't actually seen their gameplay. What a troll.
Star Citizen, the massively multiplayer space sim game from industry legend Chris Roberts that launched as a crowdfunding campaign way back in 2012. Nearly 9 years and $350 million later, Star Citizen still has not been released.
Oh yeah.
Sure, there's a playable alpha that now has over 100 beautifully detailed ships, a solar system with massive, fully explorable planets and moons, and sci-fi cities with top-tier public transit.
Whoa!
But let's forget all that. It's not released yet.
But it's still an alpha,
Yeah.
largely unpolished, where you're just as likely to successfully land on a planet as you are to clip right through it. And
True.
predicting when or if the full game will ever launch is impossible, because Cloud Imperium Games, the company developing Star Citizen, seems to have announced and missed more release dates than Techlinked has had cringy intros, which is not much of an accomplishment because all of our intros are good. They're all pretty good. But here's the thing I've discovered about Star Citizen after months of research. The question of when the game will release might be the least interesting one you could ask. Because as hilariously disappointing as it is that CIG thought they could have the game out by November 2014.
Yo, about that number, I mean, we could get into the alpha in 2014, so, I mean...
If things keep on rolling like they have been recently, when Star Citizen actually does come out, it might be the best game ever.
Okay. I can't tell if he was saying that with, like, you know, some with sarcasm or whatever, because I don't know if we've actually seen like a big scope kind of like video talk anything about Star Citizen that wasn't like just negative, but we'll see. Mostly genuine? All right. Hey man, Mordor's, welcome back.
Even when we hit a full release, we're going to keep improving things, keep adding things.
It has all been built on such a foundation of lies.
Star Citizen refunds.
Why would I believe the new roadmap or whatever, right? You know what I mean?
All right, so they have interviews as well from both like people from CIG and also Star Citizen refunds. I think this is going to be really good.
On Techlinked we're calling Techlonger, where we take a deep dive into the tech and gaming stories that get us thinking and loving and hating. Because if you've heard of Star Citizen before, you're probably one of 3 types of people. You're either 1, a Star Citizen hater, someone who not only thinks the game is going to fail, but that it deserves to fail if there's any justice in this cruel, cruel world. You might be a Star Citizen lover. Like, yeah, CIG has made mistakes, but if they succeed, well, we got the best game ever on our hands. And surely that's worth a few $1,000s and potentially decades of patience.
Valid.
Or 3, you might be, like me, someone who remembers Star Citizen as, oh, that was that Kickstarter that sold video game ships for hundreds of dollars, right? Did that ever come out? I heard it was a scam. Ma, are you buying a ship? Ma, no! Ma, don't buy a ship, come on! Now, if you're none of those 3 things, that's fine. I'm not trying to put you in a box. I only ask that you don't try to put this game in a box either. You see, the one thing that the haters and superfans can agree on is that there is no other game like Star Citizen. And that's true not only because of its uniquely convoluted and controversial history, but also because of the sheer scale of its ambition. Chris Roberts' vision for Star Citizen was initially to build the best damn space sim ever. But as he told Gamers Nexus back in 2016, as fans continued to back the project and CIG grew, Roberts' vision expanded. Instead of using existing tech, CIG would build new, fundamental systems from scratch. Planets, ships, and other objects would be made of components that interact with each other and the game world in a physically consistent way, creating a super high-fidelity simulation of reality itself.
Yep. So I think 2016 was when that whole scope changed. So I think that Gamer Nexus interview is actually pretty relevant. We'll have to check it out sometime.
It wouldn't just be the best space sim. It would be the best everything sim. Okay, Chris. You're telling me you're trying to build a Matrix.
Yes.
Yes. I asked CIG's director of community, Tyler Witkin, to define this game as CIG sees it. The official answer I got back was, Star Citizen is the most ambitious, immersive, uncompromising universe sim ever. It is our attempt at a living universe that will ultimately become the metaverse for tens, if not hundreds of millions of people around the world. We want people to be able to escape into the verse and never have to come out, except for the essentials, smiley face emoji. Okay, so two things.
I love Tyler so
People are going to
much.
find a way to go to the bathroom without leaving their gaming chair, and I'm not sure that's healthy. Two, a universe simulator certainly does sound ambitious. It also sounds awesome. At this point, I had no choice. To even attempt to grasp the
Smiley
scale of this
face.
project, I had to dive headfirst into the waters of the buggy alpha and experience it for myself. I had to get my star citizenship, or at least a travel visa. CIG regularly holds what they call
guy's
free
funny as
fly
hell.
events, where star foreigners get to try out a few ships
Star
in the game
foreigners.
world, which is known as the persistent universe. So I made an account, installed the game, created my character, and entered the Matrix. Over the course of the next hour, I left my character's apartment, found a train to the spaceport, found out the spaceport hadn't rendered in properly,
'Cause he was in the first
restarted
server.
the game, made it to the spaceport, passed through a security checkpoint that will in the future send you to prison for carrying contraband, spawned my fighter, almost crashed into some buildings, then left the planet's atmosphere, shot down some pirates attacking a space yacht, boarded the space yacht, and got one-shotted by an NPC. However, I wasn't even mad enough to blame it on the lag, because the scale and complexity on display here really hit me. The city that I had just left had felt massive, but it was only one tiny section of an entire planet about half the size of Earth's real-life moon. And I hadn't even jumped to one of the 3 other planets in the Alpha, or their multiple moons, and dozens of space stations throughout the system, all fully explorable on foot. But wait a second! There's another space game with massive scale and realistic immersive gameplay.
That's a good point.
Elite Dangerous.
Elite Dangerous.
Made by Frontier.
It has deer.
It's like the dark mirror image of Star Citizen. It also had a Kickstarter campaign in 2012 with a full release in 2014. The same year Star Citizen was supposed to launch. Oh, and it also contains a 1-to-1 scale simulation of the entire Milky Way galaxy based on real scientific principles and data. That's 400 billion star systems. Star Citizen has over 120 planned star systems, but the Alpha currently has
1.
1. Frontier accomplished this by using the opposite strategy as CIG. Release a playable, somewhat polished space flight sim with pretty basic procedurally generated planets, and then add planetary landings, rovers, and more complex gameplay. Frontier's latest expansion, Odyssey, finally lets players head out on foot, outside of a ship or rover. But wait a second. That erases one of the main advantages that Star Citizen had over Elite Dangerous.
That's what people always say.
Sort of. Remember, CIG isn't trying to create a fun space sim. They're building the Matrix. Ships in Star Citizen are built from the ground up with functional interiors, complete with ship component access panels, cargo bays, airlocks, elevators, turret gunner seats, and control stations. If your ship has the space, you can personally place cargo, weapons, land vehicles, even other spaceships inside it, and have a judo fight in the med bay about who gets to keep it all. Sure, Elite Dangerous may be a fully released game, but even in Odyssey, there aren't true ship interiors at all. To board your ship, you walk onto a blue marker, pass out, and wake up in the pilot seat.
That's lame.
I mean, passing out is the most efficient way of boarding a ship, I feel. I have a feeling that Elite Dangerous fans are not going to be happy with this video.
Yeah, I know. Now, according to CIG, the reason all of that stuff is possible in Star Citizen,
haven't tried
and a big
Odyssey
reason
yet,
development
no.
is taking so long, is because of all the proprietary technology they've built from scratch. The game's built on a version of CryEngine, but it's been modified so heavily if it was a person, it would be Nebula from the Marvel movies.
Chris Roberts thought he could
Dork.
accomplish a very narrow goal.
Hey, Morph.
But once the stretch goals were met, they very quickly realized that the stuff that they wanted to do actually required technology that didn't exist and would require incredible time and investment to get done.
There's some really good coverage from Gamers Nexus and Digital Foundry that gets super technical on this, but here's just some of the custom tech CIG told me that they're working on. Moving from a 32-bit to 64-bit coordinate system to allow solar system level scale combined with micro details at ground level.
They did that
Planet
in
building
2016.
that combines procedural generation with manual artistry and custom particle-based weather. Dynamic persistence, so any changes to the world will persist between game sessions, meaning you could hide a gun under a rock, quantum jump to another planet, log out, and the gun would still be there if you came back to get it later. They even built a face-over-IP system that lets you use a webcam to control your player's facial expressions.
Did I tell you to get up?
And an entirely new first-person shooter system, which was definitely necessary, even though CryEngine was built specifically for FPS games.
It's fair.
You need that.
Yeah.
And that's like maybe a quarter of the custom features that CIG even told me about. The way they tell it, all of this work is necessary to create the ultimate, best damn space metaverse thing ever. But why are they even trying to do that? And more importantly, why are they doing it this way, selling $1,000 virtual ships to fly in an alpha that will crash if you look at it the wrong way, instead of shipping something basic but polished and adding to it later?
Does Frontier have not producers? Do they have like publishers and stuff, or are they self-published like CIG is? Because the argument, I believe, is that because CIG doesn't have a publisher, like they have to like crowdfund and crowdsource, you know, like the development of the game. But let's hear what he
I
says.
asked this question had slightly different answers, but to me, it seems like it all comes back to Chris Roberts. I didn't want to focus on Roberts in this video, and I still don't. But I can't avoid bringing him up now because so much of what makes Star Citizen, whatever Star Citizen is, comes from him. I mean, there's already been so much published about the man. He's the visionary behind Wing Commander, Starlancer, and Freelancer. He's the game studio executive running the most crowd-funded project of all time. He's the filmmaker who produced a few okay movies with money from an investment fund that exploited a German tax loophole before the government closed it in 2006.
I think we need to watch those movies.
Roberts may not be a Hollywood prodigy, but he is a visionary. He can make you believe in his ambitious ideas, and he'll fight to see them through. A skill that helped him lead developers to create new game engines for multiple titles in order to make the experience Roberts wanted. And the subject of his vision has, for most of his career, centered around a single type of game: space-based flight combat sims.
So before he continues, I mean, there was this one, like, I think it was a seminar or a talk or something in the 90s that I think it's like floating around the internet where like there's a young Chris Roberts talking about like server meshing and stuff and how he would want to make Freelancer or whatever game he was making at the time even better, and like how that was a pipe dream and how like, you know, and now we have what we have, you know?
He made a bunch, and they were all pretty great. Clearly crafted by a man who loves the idea of pilots crossing the galaxy, fighting alien empires, and hauling cargo. But Roberts' vision was limited by two things: the graphics power of hardware in the 90s, and studio investors making unreasonable demands like stick to a budget and release the game at some point. Unbelievable. Well, graphics technology advanced and crowdfunding got popular, enabling Roberts to leave the film industry and raise over $6 million from the initial Kickstarter campaign for Star Citizen and its single-player story mode, Squadron 42. But turns out, to everyone's surprise, good vibes alone won't build a universe simulator. Star Citizen missed virtually every launch date CIG set, while the studio continued to crowdfund, designing and selling new virtual ships for tens and hundreds and thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, it was expanding, hiring hundreds of developers, opening new studios, and paying A-list celebrities to do full motion capture for the Squadron 42 campaign. CIG did release the PvP Arena Commander and Star Marine modules, as well as slowly build out the PU Alpha over the next few years. Backers were finally getting a little taste of the game they had supported, but it was all happening at a snail's pace compared to the original timeline CIG had set. And as it tends to do, cynicism started to set in around 2015, when gaming sites like Kotaku, Polygon, and The Escapist wrote hit pieces. Roberts weathered attacks over his dictatorial leadership style, his inefficient use of funds, and even nepotism concerning his wife's position as VP as marketing, from a growing faction of heretics who didn't just want their money refunded. They wanted Star Citizen to fall, like the Vanduul seek the destruction of the Empire. They're the aliens in the game.
Yeah,
guys. Yeah. See, some of Roberts' greatest successes in game development had come from projects where he pushed gaming technology forward.
Look at that deformation mesh.
Now, gaming PCs had the horsepower to enable a realistic, high-fidelity space sim. So with a massive vision and no external pressures from parent companies or publishers, why wouldn't you shoot for the moon? Pun intended, even if it takes you a little longer. One star skeptic I talked to, a YouTuber who goes by BinkyATX, aka Bucha, says that in 2015, he pulled the more than $10,000 that he had invested in the game. He'd had relationships with Roberts and CIG staff in the early days, and he didn't like the direction things were heading. In his mind, and the minds of many others, Star Citizen was becoming less of a game in development and more of a money-raising machine, perpetuated by faith in Chris Roberts and a fan base that didn't want to give up on something into which they had already poured so much time and money. Sunk cost fallacy? More like sunk cost galaxy.
You know, I think I was gonna
Title of the YouTube series Bucha made about stars.
There we go.
I used it here for a cheap laugh.
I was gonna say.
To their credit, CIG has released company financials, which show that in 2017, annual income dropped for the first time. But in 2018, the launch of Alpha version 3.0 brought a ton of new features and secured more backer support. CIG also sold a 10% stake in the company to billionaire Clive Calder for $46 million, keeping the development car running. And despite the scathing assaults on Star Citizen over the past few years, a sizable portion of the fandom held on and actually grew. That is one of the most confusing aspects about this whole thing, especially to me, someone who doesn't play MMOs and has never backed a crowdfunding project in my life. CIG missed deadline after deadline, but even among those critical of the game, I detected, at times, a faint sense of hope that despite its drawn-out, overcomplicated development, Star Citizen will be released.
Star Citizen is exceedingly unique. It was built to be unique. We have never seen anything like this before.
Perhaps describing the inhabitants of Star Citizen's world as either lovers or haters is too simplistic. If my Twitter poll is any indication, there may be a good amount of people who either think that CIG sucks, but the game is good, or that CIG is okay, but the game sucks. Though some people also apparently thought the game is great, and at times CIG can be bad at times. It wasn't a very good poll.
Nope.
But for some, the whole thing isn't that complicated. Many have held on to their hope since day one that this game would be the best thing to happen since the discovery of fire. Which is kind of wild because fire was pretty sick.
I think this could be the greatest video game ever made. Not necessarily the most fun, but in terms of greatness.
Yeah.
Like how expansive it is, how many systems there are, how deep it goes, how rich it is, all that kind of stuff. It might just, by incredible amounts, trump everything that came before it.
To understand this hopeful perspective,
That's fair with
I
all we
talked
have
to
so far.
Morphologist, a YouTuber who covers Star Citizen and some other space sim games.
Play with friends, because there's so many, it's kind of a sandbox in some ways where you can create so many scenarios independently that CIG just isn't giving you yet. It can make it really, really fun.
Like any MMO, the true value of Star Citizen is in its community. I'd seen videos of players manning turrets with their friends to defend their larger ship against multiple fighters. I'd seen the Daymar Rally, an entirely player-driven, multi-stage, day-long race over a planetoid where drivers have to navigate desert terrain while avoiding ambush by rogue ships.
Yo, there was actually a sniper in this one location here. I see how they're driving over this ridge, completely irrelevant to the discussion going on. There was a sniper who was picking off people as they were getting out of their ships to check in at this checkpoint.
And I'd watched Bed Banana's amazing video where he hatches a daring prison escape by hijacking a rover
Yo,
and
Mike,
being
thanks for the
dramatically
raid.
saved by his
Welcome,
friend
guys.
under heavy fire. I needed the group experience. So Luke, Linus, and I hopped aboard Morph's multi-crew ship and prepared to have our eyes opened.
Oh, so did he arrange the whole thing with Linus and Morphologist then? I mean, like, the intro is literally Linus trolling and chucking them into prison, though, so we'll see what happens. Welcome, guys.
Clone.
I
And
am
an
glitched
Ursa.
in a chair. Oh my god, I am glitched into the ship
How did
right
you
now.
manage that?
We're about to die. Yeah.
What? Why?
How do they manage
I got
any of
caught in
this?
the doors.
Oh my god, I'm glitched in this chair again.
Oh no. I haven't seen any of this yet. Who tried
My
to...
eyes were opened, all right, to the fact that this game truly is an alpha. After trying to meet up in-game for more than an hour, a feat that was made even more difficult by Linus repeatedly killing himself for giggles, I made the mistake of logging out in the bed of my ship. That apparently triggers a bug that prevents you from logging back in until you've reset your character, which involves making a request to CIG and then waiting at least 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know exactly how any of this Linus playthrough, went down, but I do feel as if, like, if you're bringing new people into Star Citizen, there are a few, at least a handful of known issues that you kind of need to tell people to avoid. Otherwise, their experience isn't going to be one that's good, because you can have amazing experiences. I mean, like, he was pulled into this game watching really cool experiences, and then this happened.
2 hours into the stream, I was able to join the squad. Haha! Let's go do some
Hey, Sandy's
Star Wars,
welcome.
baby.
Linus, are you set in your ICU? I gotta fly this puppy.
Here I go! No, don't jump off! Backspace or killing. Oh, I think someone else hit the button and is messing. Are you messing with the buttons, Linus? Linus, we gotta let Riley record something more than running around a space station.
Wait. We need to get to the ship. Wow, that's way too much work.
And you kill yourself.
I just had a seizure.
You happy?
I'm having so much fun.
Have fun.
Why?
$10 space.
Why though? What are they doing?
Just please, Linus, no.
No, Linus is flying. No, Linus.
Oh man.
Left alt backspace.
On second thought, bringing Linus along was a mistake. I thought he
Probably.
would have some interest in earnestly checking out the game, since he and Luke actually had started a Linus Tech Tips organization in Star Citizen and had promised to pledge $1 per member, which was 3,061 at the time of writing. But Linus, he's more troll now than man. But despite Linus's best efforts, we got to experience some epic moments that could only happen at this level of immersion in Star Citizen. Driving a rover into the cargo bay of morph ships and taking an elevator up to the bridge, leaving a space station to discover we were being attacked by an Idris-class frigate with other players in the server coming to our aid, being forced to shoot Linus when he got a hold of a gun, having him press charges against me for his murder, thus giving me criminal status, and then dying and waking up in prison.
Oh man.
Just like how that happens in real life.
Yep. Just like in real life.
Oh my gosh. While I was doing time in the slammer, I got to thinking about everything I had learned about Star Citizen and what a video game even is.
Star Citizen, it is game development as a service. The software is
this
in
guy.
very early alpha,
Right,
but the
right.
product itself is a full release. So it's not so much about the game as it is about being a part of something great.
For hardcore Star
Well,
Citizen,
I mean, the game is a live service. I mean, obviously this guy has his tinfoil hat on so hard it's a helmet, but like, yeah, Star Citizen is like a well-polished marketing machine, but that doesn't necessarily pull away from the fact that the game is what it is.
fans, the game isn't the literal software you run on your PC. It's the metagame of being involved in development. Because Star Citizen isn't technically released, the game's true fans think of themselves as being a part of the development process, not consumers of a product.
Which
There
is
are YouTube
dangerous.
channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers who make weekly update videos about nerfs, buffs, game mechanics, and features, who talk excitedly about underlying server technology. For their part, CIG makes a lot of this information available through super in-depth developer interviews on their own YouTube channel. And there's a progress tracker charting what's being worked on at any one time. As long as they continue with that transparency, the true believers could keep on believing indefinitely. But will the rest of us? Should we believe this game will come out? Because that's really what it comes down to at this point. Belief. I mean, Squadron 42's latest window to release the beta was Q3 2020, and when that came and went, Chris Roberts released a statement saying the game will be done when it's done and will not be released by a certain date just to make you happy, James! James isn't here.
I mean,
Andy?
yeah, a lot of people took offense to that, but I mean, at the end of the day, I would rather that than them push out something that isn't what exactly we wanted, because, you know, in that case, what would have been the point of this whole exercise? So Hannah says, it's like a parasocial relationship, but with a company. I mean, yeah, pretty much, but like, that's how it is for everything. What's a Nike hype beast if not somebody who like just like, you know, has a parasocial relationship with Nike? What about people who are fanatics of Apple, who are so bought into that ecosystem that, like, you know, you cannot convince them to get anything else other than Apple? It's just the same as anything other than that. But yeah, like, it is unhealthy to some degree, you know, the amount of, I suppose, attachment many people have to this game. I guess myself included, I stream it every day. But I don't know, man. I want the game to come out, but I don't want it to be rushed out because otherwise the whole point would have been, moot.
This attitude can be seen as an uncompromising commitment to one's vision, and it is that. But it can also be seen as disdain for deadlines and honestly a sort of disrespect for the people who backed this project, thinking they would have something more than an alpha 9 years in.
But I mean, here's the issue with all that. I mean, it's not like... I don't know, like when you're developing something like this, it's kind of different from, I don't know, like putting together a house or like building a bridge where you have a schematic and you know exactly what you're going to be doing. I mean, when you're building a bridge, you don't go, oh, I mean, like, how about we try this experimental tech and you delay this bridge for this reason or that reason or anything like that. It's a lot like, it's really nebulous when it comes to game development because like or this kind of game development, because you are making stuff along the way. You don't necessarily know how long it's going to take to make something that's never been made before. All you can do is project. And if you can't make it by that time, I mean, like what most AAA companies would do then is, for the most part, use stuff that already exists and works. But I mean, if they have to make stuff, then they have to compromise. And that's when you get things like, that whole like Watch Dogs 1 debacle where like, it didn't look anything like the trailer, or like, Aliens, Colonial Marines, like vertical slice looked nothing like the game. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like, again, it's a lot to do with like people's emotions and that kind of thing as well. But
CIG still needs, after 8, nearly 9 years of development, it still needs its backers. Is that right?
Yes, because like it's funded that way. It doesn't have a publisher that's putting the money for development. It literally needs the backers to fund the game.
It brings up the question, how long can a crowdfunded project ride on its backers' goodwill? We don't know.
We don't know. This is the first one.
Play out right here in real time. Star Citizen is still raising funds. 2020 was their highest funded year, somehow. In early 2021, they passed $350 million in funding. Now, a cynical person would see that and say, look, they just want the money. But a hopeful person sees that as dedicated fans with a lot of expendable income, continuing to support a project that they really believe in. And the thing is, no one can really say whether their faith is misplaced. CIG has developed some groundbreaking technology, so who's to say that they couldn't continue doing that?
Right?
The only people who could say are the people making the game. But what about the people who've been burned along the way?
Their current monetization is incredibly predatory. And that to me immediately sets off alarm bells. When you can buy $25,000 packages that you can only see if you've already spent $1,000, that to me immediately screams, these people are not on the level.
Some people...
Why is that? I mean, like, sure, it's a hidden, like, sale, but I feel like it's just there to stop people from buying in straight away. But I mean, you can kind of like interpret that whatever which way you want.
Call Star Citizen a scam, and I don't think that's accurate. Even Bucha said it's not a scam. But the fact is, people have been scammed by it. The way that Star Citizen was originally presented was not as a perpetual alpha project with a far-off release date more than a decade away. If there's one thing that I do blame Roberts and CIG for, it's giving the impression in the past that the full game was going to be released in the next couple years. It's always the next couple years. Although now people are talking about 5 to 10 years. It just, what's going on? I mean, hey, I get it. I started working on this video at the start of February. The way that Star Citizen is presented now makes it pretty clear that it's a game in active development, and there is a 30-day refund window, so I don't think many people who choose to buy a game package today are being misled into thinking they'll definitely get to be Mark Hamill's wingman next year.
Yeah, I mean, like, so there's a 30-day, like, a thing. I mean, like, if you were one of those people to put $1,000 in day 1, by day 25 you put in another 30,000 or whatever, then I suppose you can still pull that money back out as long as it's, within 30 days. It's there. I mean, it's by law they have to do that. But yeah.
By Christmas, Mark
Next
Hamill,
couple of years, yep.
He'll be your friend. He'll be your buddy.
Yeah, dude.
You'll be your old man.
You could fly with Mark Hamill. Wow. Although, lest you do think that being attacked by frigates is a super common occurrence.
The Idris that they spawned when you were on stream has no interior. Yeah, no, they spawned that in for you.
When we were on a stream.
I mean, I feel like maybe perhaps that claim right there, the Idris that came in, okay, so he's being disingenuous about that, right? The Idris has a mapped interior. We've seen it since like 2016. We don't know exactly what level of fidelity it has, but through leaks and through Squadron 42's vertical slice, we have seen the interior of the Idris. In-game, the Idris that spawns in to attack you is an NPC ship that's not intended for you to board, and so because it's even on the roadmap, they don't have certain things, but also because they don't want to spoil the interior of the Idris, it's not in there. So I don't know, just the way he said that kind of like, you know, made my skin crawl a bit.
Yeah, no, they spawn that in for you.
When we were on a stream, the Idris.
The Idris.
And then there's the fact that this week CIG released a video called "What is Star Citizen?" that definitely makes the game look more polished than it is.
Oh
and,
yeah.
And hey, you know, that's exactly what I'm talking about. CIG, stop that. Now, if you, the viewer, are thinking about buying into Star Citizen, first off, maybe just wait until the first Free Fly event, because they have them pretty regularly.
Currently ongoing.
But if you know what you're getting into, and you know that it's quite possible this janky alpha experience might be all you ever get out of this project, $45 for a starter ship isn't a horrible price for a pretty cool early access game that could turn into something amazing, but could also not
exactly.
At the end of the day, for a backer, every crowdfunding project is built on hope. If it wasn't, people would wait until the game is finished and released, and critics give it a score out of 10, and the customer decides to buy the game for a reasonable price. Star Citizen is not that.
Nope.
It might be the longest con in the history of the gaming industry, or it might be the greatest game ever. And the greatest compact toolkits ever are made by iFixit.
All right,
right.
okay.
We have a sponsor for this
Thanks,
video.
Riley.
Can you believe
Thanks,
it?
Riley.
iFixit's
Okay,
toolkits
all
are
right,
tiny, yet
okay.
paradox-
Yo, so that was a really cool video. I mean, like, I wasn't expecting it to be so in-depth and so factual about so many things. Again, I feel like Elite Dangerous fans are gonna be pretty burned by what he said about it, but he wasn't wrong. He just, you know, didn't say anything nice about Elite Dangerous. But yeah, really cool stuff. All right.